Israel rejects U.S.-backed Lebanon ceasefire proposal. So on top of all of the other great sarcasm news that is coming out right now, especially about our former prez and all of the threats going on to our country, they are essentially saying that the Middle East is not getting any cooler. They are saying that it rejected proposals on Thursday for a ceasefire with Hez, defying allies, including the United States, which had called for an immediate 3-week halt in fighting to allow for diplomacy to avert a wider conflict. There will be no ceasefire in the north, Foreign Minister Israel Katz said on X. We will continue to fight against Hez terrorist organization with all of our strength until victory and the safe return of the residents of the north to their homes. The comments dashed hopes for a swift settlement after Prime Minister Najib Mikata had expressed hope that the ceasefire could be reached soon in Lebanon, where hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes seeking safety. They say at least 63,000, I believe, they wanted to get back into their homes. I don't know if that's going to be happening. The heaviest fighting in nearly 2 decades between Iran-backed Hezbollah group has raised fears of a new Israeli ground offensive across the Lebanese-Israel frontier. Hezbollah has faced off against Israel military since the Muslim movement was created by Iran's Revolutionary Guards in 1982 to counter Israeli invasion of Lebanon. It has since evolved into Iran's most powerful Middle East proxy. Of course, being also the same country that is now threatening our former prez. Or at least we know they are, but who else is threatening him as well? That's one thing we don't know. We're going to get into a lot today. Troop deployments, more of them, and much more. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Let's get right into it. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
I don't know if you caught that, but I said more. I was reading more troops in my brain. I was saying more troops deploy, and I was reading that as I was saying Marfoogle. So I said, welcome to Marfoogle TV. So just rewind a couple seconds to hear my dummy self.
Sounded good to me.
Yeah, I totally played that off. Doing live for a long time, you just kind of roll with it. All right. More boots, ceasefire, all of the sources for today's show. A full bibliography is available over on Marfoogle TV at marfooglenews.com. Or if you listen to my phonetics, Marfoogle TV or marfooglenews.com. So go check it out. You can easily find the sources for every article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to share here today. All right, let's get into it. And one more shout out to the mods, the wonderful and awesome Marfoogle mods. They are down in the chat, keeping it awesome. Everyone from Ilea, of course, Still Wages World, Trinity, RGL, Rip Curl, and all of the rest of the gang. Thanks, CJ Blaze, and so many more. Chance, of course, holding it down on DLive along with Jammer. Thank you, guys. All right, Dex, let's go over the next piece here, which is we're going to be talking about Israel kills Hezbollah commander in Beirut strike and the vow from Netanyahu.
Yeah, so not only did they reject the ceasefire, they moved quickly and showed that they were still going full force against the Hez. So they have announced that they've taken out another top commander, and with some precision airstrikes in Beirut. They've continued at least 2 people and 15 others injured in the strikes in Beirut, according to the Ministry of Health there in Lebanon. So that has come out, and again, this is continuing. They're not stopping. This is not, they're not going to say, we'll take a ceasefire deal. They're saying, no, we're going all in. They're going, just like we saw when they took care of the Strip, as they said, we're going to finish that job. We're going to go in. They went all the way through. We the U.S., the UK, many others begged them to back off, and nobody could stop them. They continued, and they have a mission, and they are. It is apparent in my mind when I look at this. They have a mission here, and that is to stop what's been happening in the north, and they're going to go now. Will it actually happen is the biggest question, because I think what this really means is we're going to see the escalation to all-out conflict in the Middle East. That's what everybody's afraid of. And while it's just it's just a focused back and forth between that T organization in Lebanon and the northern area of Israel, I specifically feel like it's going to go to a greater extent, especially as we talked last night, Adam. They said they were preparing to possibly invade Lebanon, cross the border in to Lebanon. That's a big deal if that happens.
Yeah, you can see the framework built as you cover these things, and you can see what's going to happen next. I mean, it's like watching a bad B movie, only this is real life, and it's going to affect all of us when this all kicks off. As far as Israel goes, everybody has a very strong opinion on which side is which. Mainly, there are a lot of us that just really hope for peace. In general, everyone right now hopes that something can work out, because the last 5 years have been hell for most of us, and I could probably safely speak for most of the world. Since 2019, most of us have had a hellish time. Everyone is hoping that, we'll have world peace. But when you see the framework being built like this, when you see them getting ready for these massive wars, you can see all of the kind of pieces being put into play. You can see all the contracts being filled, all the money going certain places. You can see the troops being deployed. You can see the Navy and the militaries being deployed in certain spots. We can tell this is not going backwards. And even if it was, look at what Israel has done every step of the way. They do not act afraid like they're afraid of Iran. That's for sure, because they have said a lot of threats. Iran has threatened after threatened after threatened. And people kind of assume that Russia and Iran and all these places, because we're the big bad U.S., that no one's ever going to do anything back. We are not afraid of in our homeland when, if you look at the last 4 years, mysteriously, we've got millions more people, and these people, a good chunk of them are from Iran, from Venezuela, from Russia, from, of course, China. All of these folks are coming over. They're already here. You don't need to send an army. You don't need drop ships. You don't need paratroopers if you already have a force in place. Now, I sure hope that we are all wrong, that we didn't see these groups of 40, 50, 60, 18 to 25-year-old males coming from, Xi's country, and all of them are just buddies, and they just like having that haircut. I hope that that's the case. But again, I don't think we're going to have to look in the sky for paratroopers or on the beaches for dropships. Those might come later. So that's why I hope that people have a backup plan. By the way, the picture here is just insane. It looks like a dragon almost, doesn't it? Like you can see the body of a dragon and the head, and then a puff of smoke coming out of its mouth. What a crazy picture there. And then we have U.S. and U.K. send hundreds of troops to Cyprus for Lebanon contingencies. Now, they have a really good way of making people feel at ease. They call it contingencies, right? Oh, it's just in case. Just in case was said probably 4 or 5 times in the last few days for all of the deployments and in some of these briefings that happened. And it's always contingencies or just in case, right? Well, look at where we're at right now. It was every single day that we've had to cover where they're like, oh, well, one more thing and we're going to go all out on you guys. They already told us within days they're going to strike back in Iran. And then as they're saying that, we cover yesterday or the day before, oh, they took out another commander. Now today it's like, oh, you're way over the red lines. They took out another commander. I mean, these are martyrs in their country. As far as the contingencies, you can see the actual deployments right now. The deployments are public. Normally, if they're quietly moving a few around, they don't really say much. But now they're publicly deploying to Alaska. They're publicly deploying to the waters off Alaska. They're publicly deploying to Lebanon. They're publicly deploying to the sea around Cyprus. So this is a way bigger deal than the majority of the United States citizens know about. I know that you guys, a lot of you are military or former military. You realize the importance of what's happening right now. You're not saying, oh, it's all fear this, fear that. You're actually, first of all, some fear is healthy. It's part of our fight or flight. And I hope the majority of us will fight. But as far as some fear is healthy. You need to be aware. Just like back before we had technology and electricity and all of this stuff, you had to be aware of your surroundings. If there was a lion in the bushes, you needed to know it was there. You needed to hear the twigs crack. We've been watching the twigs break for years now, and now we're seeing the lion. The lion, the dragon, whatever analogy you want to throw in there, we're seeing that animal, and it's about to pounce on us. And this is when people should absolutely be trying to, basically recruit their friends and family members into getting a plan. Having a basic plan and having some sort of backup like food and water. Dex, as far as the deployment with hundreds of troops going to Cyprus, this is just one of many that I believe we're going to see in the coming month.
How about the fact that we still have 2 carrier groups there? We've got and other ships there, amphibious ships. We've got a lot is lined up in the Middle East. We talked a lot about it a few weeks ago when they were talking about this retaliation that never happened. And then we even said at one point, they're like, we can't sustain this forever. And oh, by the way, we left the back door wide open with China, or really the front door over there with Taiwan. So we have nothing in the South China Sea now. It's all sitting in the Middle East. So we're there. We're ready. And Cyprus is a staging ground. They're going to be filling up troops there. It's not just a few. UK is sending hundreds. It's not just hundreds. There's plenty. And there's many more that are going. So they're getting ready. And I suspect if this conflict that is continuously amping up from Israel goes to the next level, which it very likely will, and it really depends on what happens with Iran, especially as they postponed because they were at the UN meeting. They're like, oh, let us get out of the U.S. We don't want to make decisions while our president is on U.S. soil. And oh, by the way, why do we let him in here? Like, if this is going on, why do we allow him to come onto our soil? And I'm sure we protected him better than, as our current former president said, they protect him, but they don't protect, our former president. So go figure.
And as far as the South China Sea, it's like we're watching a wood derby or something, and all of these wars are represented by a derby car going down a wood ramp. And just say you're taking the video of these derby cars going down in slow-mo, and you're like, oh, that car's a little bit ahead, that car's a little bit ahead, that car's a little bit ahead. It looks like they're all going to hit the finish line around the same time, and the finish line being a massive war. If people can't see that, I would say you're not following closely enough, because look at all of the different countries. They're all preparing for this. And we're seeing the public steps of this, like the same day that China's talking about taking Taiwan and making final preps, and the same day they're talking about putting mines outside of in China, the same day you have North Korea looking at satellite photos of South Korea. And then you have Russia basically saying that they're going to beef up all of their bombs and all of this. And then, of course, Iran saying, well, we're going to strike, and it's going to be bigger than anything you've ever seen. It's like all of these are happening at the same time. And we don't hear so much about Venezuela. A lot of the people I've spoke to in person, they don't really understand why Venezuela is that important. Venezuela is a huge deal. We've got 7.7 million Venezuelans that left Venezuela, and most of them, a majority of them, I believe, are here. Those, there's a good percentage, and a percent, even 1% of 7.7 million, that's a huge amount of people. If 1% were bad guys, that would be a big deal. But they're saying that it's a bigger percent than that are usually the bad guys. So what will happen when all of this kicks off? They know, and it looks like they do want to go to war with Taiwan. They know they'll be at war with USA if they do that. They know that they'll be at war if they go for Japan. They know that if, all of these cases, every one of these parties involved knows that if they go and take their neighbor or do this, that the USA is going to be involved. So it looks like they've coordinated. They've talked to each other and said, if we're going to do this, we have to do this as one. And you see that in their wording. You see that in their treaties. You see it everywhere. If they all take at the same time, it's going to make everybody busy. It's going to spread everything thin, and they actually have a chance. More so than a chance. I think that if they all do this all at the same time, they have a really good chance, not only to win, but to really cripple the U.S. overnight. And a lot of patriots don't want to say that. They don't want to even say, like, oh, anybody can touch us. A lot of people's pride, I think, cloud their their judgment in this, because a lot of people think, oh, if it's China, it's going to fall apart. This is not the time to underestimate your enemies right now. We need to be prepared for any scenario and all of them. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. As you guys know, we've warned you about one of the most probable events that could happen to the United States and, of course, more places around the world. If you're part of the Western nations, if you're part of our allies, then I would highly recommend doing the same. EMP Shield is a device that you can, in less than 10 minutes, put on your car and protect your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, generator, house, even your ham radio. They make a device for your ham radio as well. Even your solar device in the case of the Energy, if you already have a Flex 1500 or Flex Tactical. This device with 3 wires wired into your engine, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground, will ground the signal of multiple EMP strikes in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. Not only that, it will, again, protect you against a Carrington-level event from the sun. Follow the solar movements right now. Follow the solar events that are going on right now. I assure you that you will see that entire community is up in arms right now and on high alert because of all of the sunspots, all of the solar flares, all of the X flares going on, all of the coronal holes. It is getting nuts. And this is supposed to be the predicted crazy time. Going into next year is the maximum peak, and it has already been one of the most unpredictable cycles of my lifetime. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. There is a thing to protect you. Make sure to use the code MARF. You will get $50 off per device. So if you're outfitting a car, multiple cars, a generator, a house, and a car, whichever way, you can mix and match, and you can get that discount on each one. That also stacks on top of any sale that they're doing, so always make sure to utilize that code. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. If we all had this, we would not have an issue when an EMP hits, or if an EMP hits. Hopefully by the time anybody even has the goal to do it, we'll all be protected. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, you remember the hurricane that went into Texas a little while back?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people there claimed that their all their appliances and anything in their house was completely out. Not because the power was out. Even when the power came back on, everything was fried. And a lot of people were suspecting some sort of regional or local EMP could have done that. It just made, for some reason, I just thought of that listening to you talk about EMP Shield, thinking about this hurricane that's coming through. We're all going to have these power outages. And we've talked so much about these groups like Hezbollah and others, which have ties into Venezuela. We know there's a strong connection. They come across the border. We know that they can be anywhere in America, and they have claimed to have those smaller devices, the backpack style, non-nuclear EMP devices. So I'm not saying what happened in Texas was that. That's what people in Texas said it was. At least some of them were claiming that. But nonetheless, the technology is there, and that's one of the things we have to think about. And it'll be interesting to see what may come from these massive power outages we're about to see throughout the South.
Well, think about it this way: if there is a natural disaster, if you have an enemy, are they not going to take advantage of that? These are some of the places we're enemies with. These are places that will put somebody in front of an anti-air weapon to take them out. Like, that's their sentence, right? North Korea, Venezuela, it has done some horrible things in the past. Iran, think about how they take their people out. Just think about some of the countries we're dealing with and how they've dealt with their enemies and the things they've done during war times. So, say a storm hits a city, do they care? They could double hit. And that thing that Dex is talking about, we should share that out again. A lot of people's, their devices, their appliances, their washing machines, all sorts of things didn't work. Like, they were completely fried after a hurricane. Why? Or was it a tornado? It was a big hurricane that went through. And look, in a storm, you can have power surges that can fry your stuff, and that's the same thing as an EMP. It's just not nearly the scale of like an EMP would. So it is. Again, I don't want to say that was a non-nuclear EMP that went off in Texas. Just the residents there said they felt like it was that because they had so many outages of their appliances and things that were plugged in, which they didn't typically have in past hurricanes and past power outages. They've had these things happen all before, but never lost all of their equipment. Well, and that's why they were suggesting this. But we don't know. Like, we don't really know what happened. Nobody's there to tell you the truth, and it's hard to see. It's an invisible thing. Well, hold on here. I just thought of something. So if you were an enemy of the United States, one thing that everybody knows is there's the grid for the United States, and then there's the grid for Texas. Texas has its own grid system. What if there was some sort of test during that? You know what I mean? Like that. That's
could have been
scary scenario.
I mean, we'll never know. You would never know unless you were the person doing it or you knew the people doing it, because it's sort of an invisible thing. Like, it's not something you're going to see. We're not talking about a high altitude EMP. Those are big nukes up in the atmosphere. They take out the entire, U.S. or, almost all of it, right? These are much smaller, like 1 mile, 5 mile radius type thing. Literally they can carry them around in backpacks. They're not that big. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, but we know that they have Iran and others, and all of their T organizations from Yemen to Lebanon to the ones in Lebanon they go through to Venezuela have all claimed they have this technology now.
Well, and they
specifically called it out, Adam. Sorry, they specifically called it out against Israel. They said they were going to use it there if they needed to. But if they have it there, they can have it anywhere. It's not even detectable. It's not like, they're walking around with a nuke in a backpack, which, sensors would pick up.
And I thought about after the walkie-talkies and pagers and some of the other things that have happened, you think that they're not going to respond with something like this? And then we have a Foogle fam, Chai Mom Pam, if you recognize that name during the shoutro. Again, thank you for sending that email. I appreciate that. This was sent in by Chai Mom Pam. Dex, do you want to go over what Governor Pillen addressed the committee with?
Okay, so get this. So Governor Pillen, the governor of Nebraska, so this is in Lincoln, Nebraska, held the inaugural meeting on the Committee on Pacific Conflict. Okay, let me repeat that. This is in Nebraska. The governor has started a committee on Pacific conflict. The group, formed through the passage of LB 1300, has the responsibility of identifying potential risks to the state that might emanate from China in the event of a conflict in the Pacific theater. The first state to do this. Nobody else has started anything like this, and he was priding himself on creating this organization. But it's a very interesting thing when you think about it. Like, I would expect California to be worried about what's happening in the Pacific, but no, Nebraska Nebraska is the first state in the nation to enact such a committee for this specific purpose. The group in many ways will be the front lines to identifying potential risks to our state, the governor said. It will work collaboratively across education, military, federal, and other partners to best secure our infrastructure, our natural resources, and our economy, and our way of life. When we consider the threats posed by the world today, formulation of this committee is critical and will allow Nebraska to be better prepared for any situation we may face. A committee on the Pacific conflict.
Yeah, just crazy. Speaking of Fugel fam submissions, by the way, you sent a picture there, Derek, I believe it was, Derek Wilson. That picture is so badly, what do you call it, pixelized. I can see basically a rough outline of what you sent. So I don't know if you have a zoomed out picture. I can actually zoom in and what do you call it? I can, with one of my programs, I can actually zoom into it because I'm pretty much guessing that you either zoomed in really far with your phone or you took a picture that was way zoomed out and then zoomed in. But that didn't correlate in over email. So if you have that zoomed out photo of that plane, I'd love to see that. You can kind of see something on the bottom of the plane other than the engines. You can actually see this weird thing on the bottom. I don't know what that is, but I can't see it. So if you can, Derek Wilson, send the original photo and I'll zoom in on it and I can do, I believe one of the programs I have can do a better job on that. Thank you for sending that in. If you have a story and you want us to cover it, adam@marfooglenews.com, and then of course put cover this in the subject. You can also CC that to dex@marfooglenews.com. One of us will get back to you. Again, make sure the subject is cover this. And if you want after cover this, you can put cover this plane, cover this, accident, cover this weird event, cover this Sasquatch, whatever it is. Just put it right after that. Then I can find it by that. Because we get so many emails, not to mention we get a lot of like spam emails. Everybody has access to that email. So there's thousands of emails that come in. A lot of them are junk. So again, thank you guys for doing that. And then Japan and New Zealand flexes in the Taiwan Strait. Yeah, Japan has been not acting itself lately, for sure. It seems to me, I feel like something changed. Like something changed overnight. Obviously, they turned over a lot of powers, apparently, to groups that are running the planet. Apparently, they have turned over a lot of things and a lot of power over to other groups. So it's very strange to see some of these actions. The Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force destroyer Sazanami passed through the Taiwan Strait on Wednesday, marking the first time a modern Japanese warship has navigated the strategically sensitive waterway. Do you remember just about a week and a half ago, Germany did the same? We have all of our allies in the South China Sea or around it, basically doing exactly what the U.S. would be doing. Why isn't the U.S. doing it? Well, the U.S. is over in the Middle East. Everything is positioning for a world war. And it looks like some of our allies will have to take up some slack because they believe the majority of the stuff is going to go down in the Middle East. Or at least they're going to protect Israel over everything else. What if man goes for Israel, goes for a place like this, and mind you, they have talked about invading it. Specifically, Turkey has even made comments. Erdogan says, it almost looks like we will actually have to invade Israel. What do you guys see happening on the horizon? It's crazy to even think about, but Israel actually being invaded at the same time that Taiwan is being invaded. The same time that Ukraine, massive push, this huge adding 180,000 troops to Russia. Venezuela invading Guyana. All North Korea invading South Korea. Everything happens at the same time. I think if we have a World War III, I think it is going to be that massive. That massive. The Japanese destroyer was en route to multinational Navy drills. Australian and New Zealand vessels are also reported to have transited the strait. So you've got Japan, Australia, and New Zealand all going through this after Germany. So now you have 4 countries that never do this have now gone through. What does that look like to you guys? And, of course, there was confirmation on the New Zealand vessel as well. First time since 2017, New Zealand went through the Taiwan Strait. It's just wild. And it was 2 ships, to correct myself. Before we move on, Meatbubba007, thank you. Thank you again for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you. Says the East Coast and Gulf Coast strike start Monday if no deal is reached. Sent you an email. Shout out to the mods. The East Coast and Gulf Coast strike. So are you, Meatbubba007, are you part of the ILA? Is that right? ILA? Dex, is that correct? ILA, the big strike that might happen here.
Yeah, the ports. October
1st. Right. So, yeah, and that's going to be a massive deal. We'll be covering that, especially as it gets closer. I will look for your email. I hope you cover this in the subject. Say cover this strike or something like that. Low T in the Vintage says, power just went out here in Jacksonville, Florida. Haven't experienced this kind of darkness since before I was born. Hurricane ready. Dex, did you hear that? So in Jacksonville, Florida, it's just now hitting them. Their power's out.
Yeah, and they're not even on the Gulf. They're don't get me wrong, they're getting hit, but they're on Jacksonville's the East Coast. It's on the Atlantic. But yeah, the whole state of Florida up in that northern area is it's going to be crazy. It's a big deal.
And then Stephen McMahon says, off to the salt mine. Love y'all. Maybe check out satellite phones and bivvy sticks for comms. What, Dex, do you know what bivvy sticks are? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, they're satellite communicators. Some sort of, is it a text communicator? I can't remember, but yeah.
Bivvy sticks. Is it spelled like that? B-I-V-V-Y?
Yeah, B-I-V-V-Y sticks.
Huh. I will have to look that up. All right, and then let's see here. Let's go to NATO. Plans for large-scale transport of wounded troops in case of Russia war. This is the same, by the way, Dex, this is the same kind of prep we saw Russia do before they invaded Ukraine. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah. And look, it wasn't but, I don't know, 4 months ago, we talked about NATO preparing how to bring in and provide supplies for 1 million troops coming through to the front lines of Russia. So now they're trying to figure out how to coordinate the transportation of large number of wounded troops away from those front lines in case, as they call it, war. They know it's coming. They're doing this. Potentially via hospital trains, as they're going to make the assumption that air evacuations may not be feasible. So the future scenario for medical evacuations will differ from Allies' experience in, say, Afghanistan, Iraq. The Lieutenant General said, talking specifically with the head of NATO's logistics command, the conflict with the Western and with Russia militaries would likely be faced with a much larger war zone. Obviously, we think about the whole line from, say, Romania all the way up to the Baltics, all the way up to Finland. I mean, from Poland to Ukraine, all of it. It's a pretty long stretch, and it could be lots of different areas. So they expect a high number of injured troops and at least a temporary lack of air. This is interesting. They expect a temporary lack of air superiority. So they don't feel like they will have air superiority. They're already saying that. That's the assumption they're making. So that's why they're thinking hospital trains and other types of ways to move mass amounts of wounded people out, because they won't have air superiority. Think about that.
Yeah, that's not a good thought there. This is such a side note, and I know people have pointed this out a lot, but just when you look at NATO, right, the NATO headquarters, first of all, their buildings, it's just so weird that they built it like that. I forget, somebody commented like what it was, their narrative of what they said they were supposed to look like. It's got the flag thing, but the building and how it is actually built, right? Just such a weird building. kind of looks like two, like the S kind of thing, if you know what I mean. But when you look at Siege the OTAN, it in my brain, I look at the capital S and like Seotan, and I was looking up, and I'm sure this is something that people have already known, but in German, is it correct that O is like A? So you pronounce an O like A? The O with the two dots is like an A in German. Yeah. Isn't that correct? Isn't that just like, are they just straight up? And because OTAN is NATO backwards, but OTAN stands for something too, right? It's just perfectly. And then the fact that their logo does NATO and then OTAN underneath, basically kind of symbolizing too that it's the whole this side and that side. It's
OTAN is Organisation du Traité de l'Atlantique, which would be French, and the French like to flip the words around, so they put organization in front. So therefore, it nicely makes it backwards, NATO backwards, when you do it in French.
Yeah, it's weird. The whole thing, all of those different word the symbolism and everything, symbolic kind of nature of it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's see here. And then thank you over on DLive. I appreciate everybody. Chance, thanks for holding it down over there. Make sure to go check out Chance's books over on Amazon. You can go find it over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Click on the Amazon link. You can find Chance's books. He's an author. And of course, obviously, as every other author, people would love for their books to be seen. So make sure to go check them out. And then let's see here. Let's go into North Korea may be able to produce a double-digit number of nuclear weapons, MP says. Dex, do you remember they talked about having their first one, and then that was years and years ago. Now it's like, oh, they might be able to produce double digits. Do you want to?
Well, and they used to joke. They're like, oh, yeah, they can't even make them work, and now we don't hear any of that anymore. And when they got to the realization that what they thought were these failed tests because they were such a low yield, they're like, look at that, it's such a low yield, they can't even make them really go boom. When in reality, they found out was they were actually working on EMP weapons, which don't need the high yield. So that's interesting enough. And I think since then we don't hear much more of the laughing at North Korea's inability to produce nukes. We're getting stories now about, oh yeah, they definitely can ramp it up, and it looks like they're in the neighborhood of double digits. They just put out that intentional picture of Kim going through the nuclear facility where they produce the enriched uranium or whatever they're making there. But anyway, this agency from South Korea has basically said that based on the intelligence and what they've looked at, they're expecting that they can be able to produce, double-digit number of nuclear weapons. So the Federation of American Scientists concluded that Pyongyang may have produced enough fissile material to produce up to 90 nuclear warheads, but that it's likely assembled closer to 50 of them.
It reminded me in his black suit there. Have you seen the Office parody that AI did of Kim, Barack, T-Man, I think Bush is even in there, and JB is in there. Have you seen this AI video? It makes it look like it's the Dunder Mifflin Office kind of thing, but it's replace everybody, including Dwight. I think they make it, they have JB twice. JB is the one dude, and then JB is also the Dwight character, and then they have Kim Jong-un in there wearing his black suit, dropping a cake or something. It looks so much like a real Office trailer. It is insanity. Have you seen that yet? I will have to tweet that out. If you haven't, we should attach it to the website. I don't think it's also something that people will be blown away by. Some of the scenes where they have this little kid bring a birthday card or something to one of them, it looks so freaking real. In parts of it, you would think you're watching The Office. How they did crazy. The style Yeah, watch it when you get a chance. It's only a couple minutes. It's insane.
And send it to me. I'll put it on the website for everybody else.
Oh, it is crazy. But it just makes you wonder too. Like, so they've been releasing these pictures, as Dex said. These pictures have been kind of slow rolled out, and they're releasing them over time through KCNA. And every day it's something new with Kim Jong-un, basically showing him looking at satellite photos, showing him in this great array of nuclear weapons. And it's just the Ganda is strong with this one right now. So, and then JB, Dunder Mifflin here, $8 billion more for Ukraine as Zelensky pitches victory plan at White House. Dex, we called this 1,000%. Our community called this. And you know, when was it that we said? It was when they said these, it's like every time they ask for something, they end up receiving in some way. What was it? It was like we knew absolutely it was an event that happened over the last week and a half. We were like, oh, they're going to get more money. Do you remember what that was?
Was it the F-16s?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. No, it was more recent. It was like 4 or 5 days ago. Either way, we knew that when this happened. Oh, it was when there was like a double strike. They struck at Russia. They said, oh, well, they're gonna. And when Russia threatened to take them out, they said this is really bad. Oh, and then when all of the countries said they need to be able to defend themselves, this is really, really bad. And then we said that they're going to not only ask to use the long-range missiles, but I bet you in the interim, they're going to say, well, what we can do for now is give you more money. And how much of that percentage of that money is going to go towards what it's supposed to go towards, I don't know. Probably pretty low. But we'll see. $8 billion. Again, $8 billion. Which in 3 or 4 months, of course, we'll see a headline like, oh, by the way, we messed up on our accounting and we totally only gave them $4 billion. So we have another $4 billion to send because we based it off of yesteryear's price, not today's price. Dumb us. Another $4 billion. It's just insanity. Let's say hello to the chat. What is going on? Zadizia, Lori Smith. Drop an M in the chat if you can for wonderful mods. Trevor STL79. Truth Iris says ludicrous. And by the way, somebody says palindrome. That word was blanking on my brain. Palindrome. I would totally agree with that. That was the word I was looking for NATO and OTAN. Palindrome. I believe that's what they call it when the word is the same frontwards and backwards. And Rapture Ready says, love you, Marv. Hey, nice to see you. Love you, too. Rashid, Adam, what is going on? Deborah Sue Duffin. Lisa Isba, what is happening? Randy Man, RRRB, what is happening? Rick Johnson. Oh, the mendacity. Michigan Lifestyle, that's why I love muck boots. Digital Revolution, Hannah, what's going on? James Dameron, forward and back. What is happening? Briar Patch. Oh, forward and backwards. That's right. I am a lasagna spaghetti. Something like that. I am a spaghetti lasagna, something. I remember one of those when I was a kid. It was the same frontwards and backwards, and you're like, no way. And then LOL, hi Marf. But no, NATO and OTAN isn't the same frontwards and backwards. That would be like I can't think of one, of course. Give me a...
Oh, isn't it?
NATO? No, because...
NATO?
I thought if it was like TAAT, if you flipped it, it looks exactly the same. I thought that's what a palindrome is. So like, something where you flip it and it is exactly the same. But it's... Either way, maybe that is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just thought forward to back. I didn't know.
Somebody said stream corrupted. So hopefully that's just on your end. Auto, SDRC, M. St. G, what is happening? Lori Smith liked and shared. Hey, thank you. That's a big deal. Thank you for sharing. And then leave my kitty alone. Random, but I agree with you. Do not mess with their kitty. My brain hurts too. Rob Mills, nice to see you as well. And let's move on. Before we go any further, go check out Jace. This is our great recommendation for a telehealth appointment. You can talk to a board-certified doctor from the comfort of your couch and get yourself backup antibiotics. And you can also get a year's supply of your medications. Now, you have to go to marfooglenews.com/Jace to learn more, but it's a very simple service. It's a very easy one to do, and you can get all of the most common antibiotics in a handy case that you can take with you or have for emergencies. That way, if the hospitals are down, there's a hack, the pharmacies aren't filling anything, then you have antibiotics on hand. Not only that, there's Jace Daily, which is also an incredible service, especially if you're a caregiver for somebody you love. You can help them do it as well, so where they have a year's supply of their medication on the side. That would come extremely handy if something happened to our infrastructure. So go to marfooglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARF. Now, I'm absolutely sure not all medications you can do that with. There's some probably obvious ones, but there's a lot of maintenance things and things like that that you can do that with. So, again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. Dex, go ahead.
You know what they added for an add-on on the Jace case is what's that stuff you take for nuclear? Potassium iodine or you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Potassium iodide.
They just added that, I saw. So if you guys need that too, think about that. So
you can
it's
also
on the Jace case. You can add that on.
You can also add in something that was extremely hard to get. You can add it on albuterol. These are really, really cool stuff. Fluconazole, on Danzatron, all sorts of cool things that you can add on to that case. So don't just think it's not just antibiotics. So you'll have to go and you can customize it the way you want it. It's very cool too to be able to say you have it. And how many times? Well, I guess I can only speak for myself. I don't know if I can. Well, I will just say this. In my own experience, it's really handy when someone in my family had extras, especially if you're somebody who doesn't have insurance, and it was like, oh, you sit for 8 hours in a emergency room when you know what's going on with yourself. You're like, oh, I need some antibiotics. But again, that's not recommended. But yeah, it's always nice to have. And then Trump blasts Iran as security officials warn of a rise in foreign threats. I would say the threat level's been up there for a while. I think that now people are really looking at it because there's been 2 official attempts, a third possible, and of course now T-Man has said some really alarming things on Twitter. Have you guys seen some of the X posts that he's put out? Let me show you real quick. This is like, because most of his posts have been basically thanking the Congress for adding things to that. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, this just popped up. I have to show you this. LeBron James reveals a mural of himself outside the Coliseum. Pay close attention. What do you notice? I don't know what he's trying to say. Oh, notice here. But does that mural look like identical style to the Denver mural? Like the style it's done in, that creeps me out. First of all, the kind of person you are to have a mural of yourself and to be like showing it off. I'm sorry. That's just... Are there still people that are just like obsessed with LeBron? Because I have not been since day one. I thought he was cool when I watched I watched live the McDonald's Dunkathon when he was 16 years old, and I thought he was a cool guy. Thought he was awesome. It was amazing. It's not like they show you his character profile. It's not like they interview him for a long time. Usually their interviews consist of like, yeah, he threw me the ball, and I got the ball, and I threw the ball up, and that's all we're going to do. You know, we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to try the same thing, and we're going to do it. And you know what? We're going to do it tomorrow, and then the next day. And then we're going to get back on that tour bus, and we're going to roll this thing right over. You know what I mean? And really, I just got to thank my team. But in his case, he's like, well, I'm the king. I'm the king, and nobody can beat me. I'm undefeatable, and I don't sign autographs. Was that a pretty good... I mean, I'm not even doing him specifically. I'm just doing NBA in general, or any sport, really. But yeah. Sorry, my ADD took full control right there. All right, but let's go to DT here for a second. This is just crazy. Go to the Donald's. Boom, boom. It's crazy he's posting again. So let's go to his actual thing here. And let me make sure I don't. God, I think it gets confusing sometimes. Replies, no, posts. Gosh, he actually posts a lot, or whoever is doing his account posts a lot. I'm trying to find his. Yeah. Check this out. So if you didn't see this one, it says big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I'm surrounded by more men, by more bang bangs, and more bang bangs than I have ever seen before. And notice how he says, bang bangs and weapons. So I don't know what the other weapons are than I have ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see both sides come together on something. An attack on a former prez is a death wish for the attacker. And this last part, an attack on the former prez is a death wish for the attacker, that almost comes from like a scared thing, right? Like he's basically like, you mess with me, basically you're going to get taken out. It almost sounds like it. Dex, do you know what I mean? Like it almost sounds like he's adding just an extra little step in there, like, hey, really don't try this. You're gonna go down.
Yeah, that's pretty confident.
Imagine being in his position though. Just knowing that people are trying to take you out, and serious people. Not like somebody's keyboard warrioring kind of stuff, but like literally trying to end you. That's scary.
Yeah. And this group has gone so far as to hire other organizations, and they even claim, and one of those organizations was a biker group, and they've claimed it was I think it was in Russia. It was some other organization that had absolutely no ties to them. That they will go that far. Not only will they try to use their own people to pull this off, but they will hire criminal organizations or criminals, if you want to be a criminal, if you're willing to do this, in any of these countries to pull off a job for them.
It's not, the whole world is upside down. By the way, we didn't cover this, and I should have. I forgot to talk about this yesterday when I saw this. I do want to make a comment. I'm not trying to divide anybody, but I really think it's absolutely gross. If it is absolutely true, because we've seen all of the videos over the last 48 hours, there's this Coca-Cola vending machine or something, or you can go on their website and you can design your own Coke can. The Coke can, you can literally write, Harris 2024. It will do it. If you do T-Man 2024, it won't do it. If you put in I love Jesus, it won't do it. If you put in any Yeshua, any kind of combination of anything Christian with Jesus in it, won't do it. If you say I love NATO, or if you guys get what I'm saying, OTAN, if you say I don't even like saying Satan, you can say that. It will do it. It will print a can out. You can do it. Why? And why? How crazy is it to a lot of you that are older? How crazy is it that we're in the United States and we're so far from any kind of Christian values? Now, I understand a lot of you are atheists, or you might not be Christian whatsoever, and that's fine. But it is really crazy that now it's on the far other end of the spectrum, where now the religion is looked at as, oh, you're a domestic this or that. They're basically listing people as now they're the crazy people. They're saying the supremacists. They call it Christian supremacy now. It's so upside down. The world is literally upside down right now. And even if you don't believe, if you have studied this kind of stuff, you'll see that this was one. If you're following predictions and things, this is something that many say was predicted. That persecution of certain people. But one thing I don't get is, even if you are totally not Christian, one thing I am so bothered by is the fact that essentially you cannot talk about some of the other religions that 10, 15 years ago were in that same position that Christians are now. But even back then, you couldn't say things about that because it would be considered really bad, taboo. But now, anything and everything can be said about just one religion in specific. I mean, it's really Christians. And that's totally okay now. I don't understand this, and people have said it out loud. It's not doing anything now. Why? I think most of us have an idea or an opinion on why, but I think it's really nuts. Even if you hate it and say, oh, I grew up that way and I don't like it and I don't believe in this and I think everybody that believes that is stupid. Okay, well, what do you think about the people that follow the Quran or Buddha or any of this? Why isn't it equal protection for all? And that's what I believe too. If you believe in Quran, this and this and that, if the big gov should leave all of them alone. Nobody should be attacking any of them. At least in the right that we all have the same rights. They talk about equality and how we should all have the same equal rights, but then now certain people, certain literal people, shades of people, and certain groups are now being persecuted. And they're saying, oh, well, you were the persecutor, so we can't persecute you because you were the persecutors. Is it going to rotate in 300 years and they're going to say now you can't talk about them and they can't be this because they're this? And is it going to rotate after 300 years and now basically it's sort of like revenge? I don't know. I just think the whole thing is so upside down. As somebody who grew up and did the, national or the, all the stuff we used to do in schools, now it's just completely taken out of everything, which some could agree, but now to persecute as well, I'm kind of flabbergasted by it. Dex, as far as the threats on T-Man, we will be in a civil conflict if that actually goes down. If that happens, we're in civil conflict that day.
Look, there's so many things around this selection process that's coming up that are going to, if he's taken out, it'll be conflict. If he wins, it'll be conflict. If he loses, it'll be conflict. I mean, I kind of go back to what Gilly Bates said. There will be this event at the selection process and it'll be hung and everybody will get into a civil conflict. That was his prediction. That's what he said. And he's said a lot of things and they happen. So it's not like he's Nostradamus. He's sort of on the inside lines, so to speak.
Well, it's just it's really alarming. I'm sure that most of you are seeing the same thing. I wanted to find this Voltaire quote, and somebody just made a... Yes! This is the Voltaire quote I was looking for. If you want to know who controls you, look at who you are not allowed to criticize. I think one of the greatest quotes ever to exist. It's true for everything. Craig Alicious says, YT won't even let me write AJ's name in this chat. The attack on him is an attack on all of us. Craig Alicious, again, we'll see what ends up happening with this bidding, this whole auction thing. People saying Elon is going to save him or could save him. I don't think that will happen, but I don't know. I didn't know yesterday that he actually reposted AJ's stuff about the whole thing. So I didn't know that. I even said yesterday, I don't think he's ever reposted his stuff, but I guess he's started. And that means that thousands of people responded to that, and that means that people probably said, hey, you got to save him, which he could, technically. One, Robert Nelson, but like we said yesterday, they would find some other reason, or they would go the ultimate route, which they're trying right now with other people, and just... One, Robert Nelson, a.k.a. Neil Nelson, says, you are amazing. Hey, thank you, and I appreciate the support. I believe you are a top supporter tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dex, thank you so much for your service, and I'm praying for you too because you are in that hurricane zone.
Yeah, quick update on that. 1.1 million in Florida without power right now. 100,000 in Georgia, and growing as it's coming ashore.
Gosh. Well, for you in Florida, too, especially, I hope that all of you are safe. This hurricane is coming up right here. As we speak, as the recording of this video, it is a Cat 4, right? It is a Cat 4 right now. It is heading in. Jacksonville is out of power. It is heading up Georgia, and it's going to be going up into here. So you might even see it into Tennessee and even as far as Kentucky, big storm effects. So
straight line to Atlanta, and then straight line to Nashville is the current path.
Yeah, it's just hopefully everything works out, and hopefully a lot of you are already hurricane prepped. Hopefully you have food and water stocked up. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks to the mods, awesome mods. Go over and check them out. Thank you to all of the folks that have contributed on PayPal in 2024. Thank you, Dean G, Deborah, Paula, Tiffany, Michelle, Joanna, Amber, Jeffrey, Karen, and Alita. Thank you, guys. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It is a shoutro. Trying to burn the books. I leave them shook.